Welcome, welcome, welcome. And once again, clout chasing is at an all-time high. I ain't got no spill. I just keep it all the way real. And today, we're going to talk about Eligio Bishop, Nature Boy, ex-cult leader, or he might still be a current cult leader of the Carbonation cult. I heard it's breaking news that he actually got shipped out to prison earlier this morning or something like that. So we don't know exactly what prison he got shipped to. But when we find that out, you know what I'm saying, we'll let you know that too. But right now we got Brother Isaiah out of Houston. Basically gonna talk about Nature Boy and Carbonation Cult. And we're just gonna break it down.
With us, we have a great program, and we're going to kick it off right now. A story you may be talking about tomorrow. First up, the fall of a very controversial cult leader you probably didn't even know existed, but he attracted people from all over the country. Eligio Bishop, known as Nature Boy, has been sentenced to life in prison in Georgia. Prosecutors say he raped a former group member as she tried to escape and then posted revenge porn online. Nature Boy led the group called Carbonation, which encouraged being naked, pooping on trees, requiring followers to give Nature Boy their money, and allowing verbal abuse like this.
That's a good one. Slap a back to sense. Like, stop wasting our time making about you. This about me. Rub my legs and my toes and suck on my toes. And you can say it's abuse, but please leave.
Now, many of us have always been intrigued by a person who can manipulate so many people with just words. Joining us to talk about it tonight, Todd Smith, CEO of Regal Media, and therapist Dr. Jasmine Boone and Dr. Angela Jones. So, Todd, what do we know about this guy so far? He was found guilty. He is spending life in prison now as a result of raping one member and then using revenge porn. So what do we know about him?
Well, basically, he started his organization around 2015, 2016. Some of the oldest members said they joined in 2016. And he kind of convinced people that America was just messed up. Capitalism, racism. We need to live off the grid. We need to leave this place. We don't need to be consumed with all of the technology. We can live in nature and just be one and be, spiritually together. And it started off okay. Some of the members joined, went overseas, and they said, they had to live outside in tents, but they, ate food from the berries and stuff like that. Started off great, and he had extracurricular activities for certain people. Like one of the first members to leave said she was an audio engineer. He had a recording studio there, so they could do certain things that they enjoyed. But then he slowly started to change. Like all manipulative people, he started abusing his girlfriend, and that's why she left.
So yeah, basically they breaking down how it all started with Nature Boy. I've known about him for a while. Doing social media and stuff like that. I've heard about him. I've interacted with some of the people that was in the cult or ex-cult members or whatever you want to call it. But I never really dug too deep off into it for real. And now that he done got his sentence and from his antics in court, it's just becoming a little more interesting.
He hit his first girlfriend and she left, but he convinced a lot of people just to give money. Some people gave $300,000, some people gave land. And with cult leaders, I've noticed it always starts out great. And they always find something to get at a person's heart, whether it's religious, whether it's political, whether it's racial. And they start gradually getting abusive and stuff like that. So a lot of the members, some members died. One member couldn't take her heart medicine because he was against that. She dies. People got STDs because, they were raped and forced to have sex.
Oh, yeah. The STDs part is very well known with the whole Nature Boy thing, that it's STDs, herpes, gonorrhea, maybe even something like, what they call it? A home in Virginia. They say even they buying homes in Virginia They buying homes in Virginia over there, so it was a real nasty thing. So yeah, as you do your research, you'll find out a lot. And they didn't bathe, and it was just disgusting.
So it just got out of hand, and we see where it's at right now. He's in jail for life.
And give me a little bit about his background, Eligio.
One of the members who left said he was very abused as a child. His parents died.
No, I'm sorry, where he came from, because we heard he was a stripper.
He was a stripper and stuff like that. Just a bad guy. You know?
Yeah, a LGBT community member. He's definitely, catching and pitching, so, yeah.
I mean, and he had people, barber, just all over the place, but he had people believing that he was the second coming. Mm-hmm. He was Christ. He was a Messiah type figure. But if you look at his behavior, you showed the video of him saying that he has sex around his kids. What part of that relates to any God? You know what I mean? But somehow you can manipulate people into believing that. And like back to his history, like one of the people said that they don't even blame him because they believe that a lot of the stuff that he went through as a child is manifesting now. They say he's like a hurt child. He's 40 years old, but his parents died young. He grew up rough, and he's projecting some of this stuff. So that power is something that, came from that wanting to have that power came from just a turbulent upbringing.
And Dr. Jones, do you ever think he was sincere in the beginning and then it just escalated and morphed into something more sinister? What do you think in reading and researching him?
I mean, there's a possibility there was some sincerity at the beginning. I think the ideas that he had about living off of the land, living off of the earth, there's nothing wrong with those things. Like saying you want to be more natural, being aware of what you put in your body, maybe even disconnecting from some of the societal norms in regards to politics and, preservatives in our food. So the idea was a good idea, but putting it in the hands of someone who has past trauma and has past hurt that's unresolved, putting it in the hands of someone who's possibly a narcissist or has anti-social personality disorder, that's what happens.
And on that, it's like, I don't know how charismatic, Nature Boy was to people or is or whatever like that to people. I just never understood just following a person. I mean, maybe because I'm a man, maybe because I'm a man, and it's probably even not because he had men following him or whatever, but it's just that the mentality behind a person being so lost that they would follow behind somebody that's even more lost than them. I just can't, fathom that. But I'm pretty sure, it's people that can agree to it, I guess. So, yeah, I just put that down in the comments. Like, would you ever follow a cult leader, or have you ever followed a cult leader? Or would you become a cult leader? Like, honestly, I just really want to know.
It's like putting a gun, and you're putting a gun in the wrong hands. It depends on whose hands you put it in.
And does someone like this, and I can only think about Jim Jones and the Guyana tragedy back in the 70s where Jim Jones, a pastor, convinced like 1,000 black people to move from Compton to the jungles of Guyana. Does he get that mentality where he feels like he's God at some point?
I mean, yeah.
And I'm talking about Bishop now.
Well, is this sense of superiority that he has. He likely already had it. Now, as far as like why it happened and where it stemmed from past pain and past trauma, that's something we may find out later. But there is this sense of superiority. And once you are able to see that this idea, I can move people into the direction that I want to, and I can convince this person to follow me, it's like building Legos, but of ego. And he's realizing like, oh, wow. They're actually listening to me. They're doing what I want them to do.
You're creating a monster.
And so it's just building up something that's already dark inside of him, and it's outwardly showing.
And what do you call that type of psychosis or psyche that we're dealing with when you have an individual who may manipulate so many people and be good at it?
Antisocial personality disorder. These people are charismatic. They can charm a room. So you're not easy to be like, oh, they have antisocial personality disorder. They're very manipulative. They really do not care. They generally do not care about anybody else's emotions. They're not really even connected with their own emotions. It's the power, it's the manipulation, seeing that I can move you just by my words or just by my beliefs, and you're actually doing it. It's feeding into that. I mean,
Now, you may not care about their emotions and how they feel, but you become a great actor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And just like Todd was saying, like they started in a place where it was a good idea, but then now you're listening to these videos where he's like saying about the color of their skin, and then he's talking about having sex in front of his son while the son is breastfeeding on the mother. And it's like, I think he's just adding his own ideas, seeing if it sticks, and once he sees that it sticks and people are following it, he goes on to the next thing.
We're going to continue with you, Dr. Boone, in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. As we said, we'll continue this discussion.
Don't nobody owe you, Malia. You got to work in real life. You're not that beautiful. And gonna bag on you. You're not that bad. You're just not. I mean, being all the way honest with you, and gonna bag on you the way I'm doing. They gonna take care of you like you gonna work at Walmart. You gonna be some late night, or you might get a relationship with a broke. But ain't nobody about to bag on you. You not that bad, Malia.
I know.
Huh?
Southern border down in Texas still got a door wide
Okay,
open for
okay,
the migrants.
they hitting
They're
us with
bolting
these
in.
commercials right now, but
How do you say you're
we
Ike
back.
Turner without saying you're
We
Ike
back.
Turner? Welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. That was just some of the verbal vitriol followers of the Carbon Nation cult chose to endure. Their leader, Eligio Bishop, aka Nature Boy, is now in prison for life after being accused of raping a former member. Tonight, we continue our discussion about the mentality behind cults. Todd Smith, CEO of Regal Media, and therapist Dr. Jasmine Boone and Dr. Angela Jones are back. Dr. Boone, when you see someone taking verbal abuse like that, and we want to talk about the followers now,
Yeah.
what does it take for an individual to be attracted to one like Eligio Bishop, and then not only be attracted, but to stay after being verbally abused and physically abused and sexually abused?
So, Todd mentioned this earlier. We have to keep in mind that he gained a lot of his followers because they were watching his content on YouTube. So they were already aligning with a lot of the topics he was talking about, the living pure, living off the land. So they already had that alignment. Now, who's to say what their childhood looked like, if they're looking for father figures, if they're looking for what their meaning in life, what their purpose is, but they're attracted to, like, he is certain about what he believes. He is confident about what he believes, and that becomes the initial attraction. If I'm a person who's like, God, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what my meaning is, and this guy's like, oh, I can help you. You're like, oh, can you? Because there's a confidence that he has. So what a cult leader often does, he's going to get you away from anybody who can talk some sense into you.
Isolate you.
Isolate you as soon as possible from anybody, a mom, a sister, anyone who's going to be able to talk sense into you. He's going to get you away from them, right? So once he has you in their grips and they've gone off grid, that's when we start seeing the manipulation and the change. It's a slow burn, right? It's a slow burn. So once you're so deep in, now as a cult member, there's this cognitive dissonance that shows up. And that is like, I can't believe I got myself in this. And so now I got to stay because, like, this is too much. It is a disconnect. It is a misalignment of what I once believed and what's really going on. And so now there's this shame, there's this embarrassment, there's this like, I can't go back now. And so they're staying much, much longer than they would, on top of the fact that they're probably scared, right? He doesn't seem to be the most kind leader, right? He's been abusive. He's probably made examples out of other cult members. So there's a lot of different layers to this as to why they would stay. But how they come in the first place, it's slow. It's a slow manipulation. There's similarities, there's kindness, you're feeling this void, right? And then boom, here's the change.
And just like Angela, Dr. Jones, individuals like Charles Manson, even when he was put in prison, the ties were never cut with the members.
Right.
And so they remain loyal even after they go to prison, even after the system says you're guilty, even after they hear from the victim. So, I mean, how do you, can you even break those ties unless he decides to break those ties?
I mean, some of the ties won't be broken because you have to remember, while you're in a cult, they're also training you about the system. So this is what they're going to say about me. This is what they're going to do to me. And so you're also not only trained about the theories and the philosophies of the cult, you're also being trained to know that, like, the system is the problem. So the fact that he's in court and he got sentenced to life and rape, he probably already talked to them about that.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they're going to portray me as. They're going to take the meaning of our love and how we represent our love and call it rape. So they already been trained for this possibility that he is going to get arrested, because he is now victimized right now. The cult people are looking at him and they're like, poor him. Our leader is being, prosecuted by the system. And so this has already been like rehearsed into them. It's already been massaged into them, like they say, like a slow burn. You don't go into something and they say, okay, this is what's going to happen. It's slowly taught to you that the system is going to go against me. So be ready.
All right, we'll be back with more Factor. Don't go anywhere. We'll pick up the discussion on the other side of the break. We'll continue talking about cult leader Eligio Bishop out of Georgia, who has been sentenced to life in prison. Stay with us here on The Factor. To The Factor Uncensored, we continue our discussion about the psychology behind cults. The members of the Carbon Nation were subjected to a few different conditions over the years, including polygamy and refraining from bathing. The leader, Nature Boy, will spend the rest of his life behind bars, convicted this week, sentenced this week. He was recently sentenced for that rape. And Todd Smith, CEO of Regal's Media, therapist Dr. Jasmine Boone and Dr. Angela Jones are both back here. Now, one of the things he was always preaching, we're one race, we're one people, and all of a sudden now it's I'm the black man, and they're out to get me. And it initially started with a young lady, white female from Canada, whose family.
Yep, let's talk about it. I'm going, I don't like to really get off into the racial thing and all that, but the undertones to this was, as long as it was black females, as long as it was black males getting emasculated, everything was fine. The Carbonation cult thrived and continued, and nobody batted an eye, right? But when the other painted people got involved, and the color spectrum started changing, I started noticing that basically it was more people out to get them, right? So with that being said, right, would he have been able to just thrive if he would have just kept it melanated or whatever like that? If it was just a melanated thing and he was just emasculating the melanated people and disrespecting the black queens and stuff like that, how long would he have been able to thrive? That's just my thoughts.
They called authorities and put a lot of pressure on him. And it's a multicultural group.
Right.
But now he's saying it's about him being a black man. Your thoughts on that, guys?
Right. The video, it's actually a video of him staying in the front, and he has all the multicultural people behind him saying we're one color, we're all different shades of brown. And then the fact that he was able to just take what our philosophy is of this cult, flip it to use it to, for his advantage. To me, it's almost like a red flag to the cult members. Like, hello, like he wavers, but it's just a red flag, even just for people who were even thinking about joining this cult. Like, okay, you don't really have a strong stance in regards to that we're all one. You're just using that to get more members into there so you can get more people to manipulate, to get their money, and to do whatever you want to do. It's all manipulation,
and that's typical of a cult leader. It is as it is convenient and favorable for me, right? So it's favorable for me to believe that we're all one color right now, but as soon as that is no longer convenient for me, it's racism, it's this, it's that. So you'll always notice with the cult leader, I am the center. I am the God complex holder, right? And so that's what we're seeing. He's shifting because now that's not working in my favor. It's a racism issue.
And we're talking about motives, money,
Oh,
sex,
power.
and control.
Yes, yes.
And when we say money, guys, PPP loans, he
Yeah.
convinced many people to give their loans because he started before the pandemic.
Right.
Todd, go ahead.
And that's in every cult that I've ever studied, money is always the root of a lot of things. Obviously sex as well, but to convince people to give their life savings, like I said earlier, one person gave $300,000, some people gave land. We see it in all walks of life. It's just not sex cult. We see it in politics. I know we're not talking about politics. When you convince somebody, woe is me, they're out to get me, we see that all the time. But people are I think people have a need for a Messiah from people who aren't the Messiah. You see what I'm saying? We need somebody to save us from the problems of the world. So you start believing that type of rhetoric, and we gravitate towards charismatic people, not realizing what their message is. Like you said, you keep switching up. You see that in all walks of life. One minute there's no racism, or it's not about race, the next minute it is. So we see that in all walks of life because we want to believe that one person is going to correct all the wrongs of the world and it's going to change our life. No, it's not going to happen like that. I have a friend that would always say, when we talk about religious cults, a pastor's my pastor, they're not my master. You see what I'm saying? Like the minute you try to dictate what I do, you want to control my money, that's when I back off. I have to leave with you? No, I'm not leaving anywhere. So people have to realize these are human beings. Stop looking for God in human beings and start realizing that nothing is going to change your life but you. And nothing's going to change the world.
And really, the last time when I was researching this, I found there are a lot of current active cults that are out there.
Absolutely.
And we see a proliferation of them as a result of social media.
Right.
And so people have to be careful who they follow, right, Dr. Jones?
There's a new platform. I mean, social media is everyone's new platform. And, cults is not only about a religious belief. It can be about a therapeutic belief, just an ideology. It could be about
A
food.
lifestyle.
It could be a lifestyle. So it doesn't always have to be surrounded around like a god or a religion. It could just be we have common thoughts and we come together, but then what happens is the definition of the cult is different. It's about analyzing that one person rather than an actual, a belief or ideology.
All right. We want to thank you all for joining us on The Factor on Censored Night. Fascinating story out of Georgia.
Politics and preservatives in our food. So the idea
He got released.
So definitely, clout chasing is at an all-time high. Like, share, subscribe, and get at me.